Привет, давно не виделись. С вами, как обычно, я, Артемка. И сегодня у нас такая игра, как Стенли Парабл. Точнее, Стенли Парабл Ультра Делюкс. Так как игрушечка сейчас, как говорится, на тренде, поэтому я решил ее немножко поснимать. Так что, надеюсь, вас все будет устраивать, как обычно. Вас же всегда все устраивало, что вы теперь-то прикопались. Так что, всем посмотреть мое видео. Понятно вам? Кстати, ребят, во время второго запуска игры я заметил одну вещь. То есть, когда я заходил в игру, я вот сейчас второй раз захожу, я выставил время правильно, и мне благодарят за это. Это прям... И у меня теперь появилось право сделать такое время, которое мне нравится. Вот это я понимаю. Прям с душой разработчик относится. Если интересно, я при следующем запуске сделаю опять правильное время. Это мы видели. Да, и мы начинаем с вот ультра делюкс контента. Вот он наш контент, который мы заслужили.
Psst! Stanley!
Чё?
Come over here!
Куда?
In the vent!
О,
I
давай.
want to show you something!
Давай. Надеюсь, это ультра делюкс контент. Чё это? Отвертка, кружка. Ну давай. Ой, загрузка. Так, ну
Okay,
поползли.
you remember how cheap and unsatisfying the new ultra deluxe content turned out to be? Well, it got me thinking about the past and how much better the Stanley Parable used to be. So I made something special and tucked it away here where the game's developers won't find it. Just our little secret. Take a look. I call it the Memory Zone. It's where I've been storing all my favorite memories so I can relive the peak experiences of my life whenever I want. Experiences like the launch of the Stanley Parable on PC.
Как ты красиво. Вообще не пицца, конечно, в эту игру. Телефон. Так.
You see, Stanley, doesn't the Memory Zone remind you of how wonderful Stanley Parable was before it was sullied with a cheap re-release? Remember back in October of 2013, when the game originally launched? Back then, video games had integrity. Back then, it all meant something. Oh, the waste.
Погоди. Так это на русском окно, смотри. А даже это на русском. Нифига. Или это прям чё? Самое главное, это не на русском, а, блять, окно для Стима на русском. Ничего. Time Indoors Months. Ага. The Stanley Parable Collect Edition. Что-то я не помню такого. Ага. Это награды. Что тут написано? Британская академия фильмов телевизионных. Да? Короче, награждается Стэнли Парабл за, так сказать, лучшую игру истории. Блин, круто. Даже тут 2013. Да, что-то у меня не такое время сейчас. А тут уже на английском. Смотрите-ка. Где? Оригинальный ремейк. Ага. Мазила. Ну-ка, давайте почитаем. Ну, я, конечно, мастер английского, поэтому По-моему, вообще какие-то просто имена. Ну, не везде, конечно. Ну, короче, я не умею читать на английском. Умею, конечно, ну слабенько. Ну ладно. Так, что здесь у нас? Memory Lane. Улыбайся, потому что ты сейчас. Это весело. Ой, это случилось, да. Угу. Это, как я понял, да, это демка. Я, кстати, в демку не играл. Не играй в игру 5 лет. Она чивит. Я не помню, у меня есть это достижение или нет. По-моему, нету. Так, это опять же награды. Новая игра вышла сегодня. Интересно, это реально в газетах так было? Потому что все-таки мы не в Америке, не в Нью-Йорке. Лос-Анджелес Тайм. Блин, было бы круто, если бы реально это в газетах выпускали. Так, это скамейка. Скамейка перекрывает мне путь.
And over here is where I keep reviews of the Stanley Parable. Like this
10
stunning
из 10.
triumph of games journalism, 10 out of 10 from Destructoid.com. James Stephanie Sterling writes, and I quote, "Where so many games that aspire to be more than games end up less than any form of art, Stanley Parable strives and then succeeds to be every game ever created." Did you hear that, Stanley? Every game ever created. That's how grand and all-encompassing the original Stanley Parable was. It was literally every game ever created. It was Skyrim, it was Persona 3, it was all of them, and now it's nothing. It's no games at all. It isn't even the Stanley Parable anymore. It's just a husk now. A lifeless husk with an hour of new elevator content.
Блин. Да, вот такую менюшку я помню. В принципе, сильно-то она и не изменилась. Но я думаю, это наоборот к лучшему. Да, это выбор дверей у нас. Персона года. Стенли. Это... Не знаю, что это за программа. Плохо видно. Оригинальный ремейк. А я могу пойти на... А я пойду вниз. Чё тут? Нереальная зона. Монтейдж. Монтейс, не знаю. Я же говорю, я мастер английского. Вы еще в этом удостоверитесь. Так. Ага. Машинка для Скотта К. Понятно. Ага. Тут издание. Реально, я не помню этого издания. Так, ладно. 29. Твой номер 29. Мой номер 29. Хорошо, запомню.
Here's another moving passage, this time from GameSpot.com. The Stanley Parable is both a richly stimulating commentary on the nature of choice in games and one that offers some of the most enjoyable, surprising, and rewarding choices I've ever been confronted with in a game. 9 out of 10. Don't you get it, Stanley? The game was perfect. It didn't need anything else. It didn't need new content. It just needed to be left alone, to spend the rest of time collecting dust in the hallowed hall of beloved video game memories.
Кто, кстати, английский нормально знает, если хотите, можете перевести. Я-то профи, как я сказал, уже в английском. Я уже все заранее перевел. А? Серьезная комната, блин. Я помню ее. Это... Я помню, чтобы попасть в эту серьезную комнату, надо было воспользоваться читами. А я не могу. Ну-ка, настройки. Аудио, видео, управление. Нет, тут нельзя включить. Типа, консолька не работает. А... И что мне дальше? Ну-ка, может быть, там...
These were simpler times, Stanley. What I wouldn't give to go back, to have it all over again. Wait, hang on. I don't recall this part of the memory zone before. What's this? What's down here? Oh no. Oh God, no. Stanley, it's a collection of reviews from Steam, the online video game distributor. I haven't looked at these in years. I can't even imagine what's been collecting down here. Surely these reviews were glowing as well, weren't they? Honestly, I could not be bothered to play this game to full completion. The narrator is obnoxious and unfunny, with his humor and dialogue proving to be more irritating than entertaining. Unfunny! I'm not trying to be funny. I'm trying to make a serious work of art. I suppose I could write up a handful of gags to insert into the Stanley Parable, but the game is already such a densely layered web of profound philosophical insights that I can't even imagine where I'd have the room to stick them.
Сейчас будем издеваться над рассказчиком. Я, в принципе, не удивлен, что в Steam такие отзывы были. А тут что? Сюда я не могу. Опа, еще отзыв. А, ну, только он размытый. Ладно. Что у нас дальше? Открывается. О.
Okay, let's see what this one says. While the idea for the game is good, for someone who prefers non-linear games, this preachiness gets annoying fast. Preachy? Stanley? I'm not preachy, am I? You can tell me if I'm preachy. Honestly, you can.
Конечно, похож на проповедника,
This is actually quite shocking for me. I always, well, to be honest, I had always thought of the game's dialogue as being rather terse to begin with. You can't know how much fluff I cut from the game to get it to feel as light and airy as it, well,
Мне кажется, там больше не вырезали, чем вставляли.
Dear, what an awful memory to have to hold on to. These black marks on my otherwise unimpeachable track record. I feel like a failure, like I let these people down. Perhaps the Stanley Parable isn't quite as sterling as I always remembered.
Возможно. Но я так не думаю. Ой! Так.
What's this one got to say? You constantly have to stop doing anything so the narrator can catch up with his long-winded explanations of what's happening. I wish there was a skip button. A skip button? Well, yes. Yes, I think we can do that. If I'm truly too preachy, then maybe letting you skip ahead for just a moment, surely it couldn't hurt. Not if it means we can strike these negative reviews from the record. Only positive reviews of the Stanley Parable. That's my motto today, and it's always been my motto. I'd do anything for the customer, Stanley. Yes, a skip button we shall have. And here it is. Go ahead and give it a shot. I'll pop you forward in time so that the second my incessant droning starts to bore you, with just the push of a button, you'll have zipped right past it. It's what the players have been asking for, and I'm very proud to have delivered. No more listening to me rambling on and on and on. No, 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 no. The Stanley Parable is a game for the people. And if the people want silence, then by goodness, that's what they're going to get. Well, don't sit around waiting for me to shut up. Go ahead and make me shut up. Here, we'll pretend that I've just begun an interminable monologue, and it goes something like this. The story, and the choices, or what have you, and therefore, by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably, until the end of time, at which time, everything all at once, so, now you see, blah, 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 blah. We've eaten too much, and it can't be just yet, no, until 245. Got the logic of elimination working backwards, the deduction, therefore, becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years, until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say,
the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by becoming it is, so on and so forth, until inevitably we all until the end of time, at which time everything all at once. So now you see, blah 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 blah. We've eaten too much and it can't be just yet. No, until 245. Got the logic of elimination working backwards. The deduction therefore becomes impossible to manufacture. It went on for nearly 10,000 years. Until just yesterday, here and there, forward and back, and never a moment before lunchtime. It can't be. It's the only thing there is. How many billions left until so much more than forever ago? Which is why I say, the story and the choices, or what have you, and therefore by...
Oh, you're back, you see. You were only frozen in time for a few minutes, but it was plenty of time for me to deliver a long, rambling monologue full of unnecessary verbal flourishes and lengthy ruminations on the nature of choice in video games. Of course, I happen to believe it was perhaps one of my more... Well there, sport. You really did catch me rambling on a bit, didn't you? But that's the power of the button. The minute I start to go off on a thoughtless display of self-absorption, it's right at your... Okay, welcome back, Stanley. Now, I should say that the amount of time the button has been skipping through is becoming longer and longer. That last one was, well, I want to say maybe 30, 45 minutes? It's not unendurable by any means, but it's, well... Stanley, please don't push the button again. It's been 12 hours. You've just been frozen there. I don't know why the skips are getting longer, but they're really, truly getting longer, and my God, there's no way out of the room. Stanley, the door is gone. It's completely gone. Oh, Stanley, you're back. You're back. Oh, my goodness. I have someone to talk to again. Stanley, I think it's been a week. Or 2 weeks. I've been sitting here all that time. Just sitting here. Not a single person to speak with. Oh, hello, it's you. You're here again. Welcome. I have had time to think about you and about us and about everything we've been through. I've had so much time. I stopped keeping track after a year. Have you ever sat down in one place and not moved for one entire year? Let me describe it for you. To begin with, there is...
Все? Конец. Я перенажал. Ладно, давай еще пропустим. О, чё? Чё это? Сигнализа... Часы упали. Ладно, еще нажимаем.
But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said, entertain us. It wasn't enough. They had to leave a pathetic little thumbs-down review and make all of their pitiful demands. But then, he's talking too much, they said. First, he didn't entertain us, now he won't shut up. It's the inconsistency, it's the lack of accountability. It's the unwillingness to examine with an uncompromising heart the words that they are speaking into the world. As though there were no consequences for a lack of cohesion in one's assessment of others. But of course, absolutely anyone can leave a review. So here's what we get. We get these demands that seek everything and are accountable to nothing. We get a world where someone will say, oh, there should be a skip button. You should be able to freeze Stanley in place while the narrator sits there forever and ever. We want all of this in the new Stanley Parable. We demand it. And then, because it was said, because it was spoken, now it simply has to happen. The most immediate desires, every single thing demanded by every person at every moment in time. If someone wants it, then it's a crime not to bring it into being. Have we been given to indulging every fleeting whim for no reason other than to do so? Yes! Yes! It seems that this is now the world we live in. It seems that we are a people living in such bleakness and discomfort with ourselves that our entertainment is now our lives. It has come to represent us. It absolutely must speak to who we are as people, because otherwise, without our entertainment, we have nothing. Without entertainment, we would have to face inward toward the cruel bleakness inside ourselves. We would turn to look at our deeper nature and find a resounding emptiness gazing back with unyielding aggression. And so because of this, we require that our amusements and our playthings and our flights of fancy be so impossibly captivating that they consume all of our attention, turn our heads completely away from the bleakness. In effect, we have demanded that our entertainment be the collapse of ourselves. What a pitiful reflection of humanity these entertainments are. What a shameful mirror to the human spirit they project. I'm not mad. I'm not mad about any of this. I'm at peace with it. I am the calm center of gravity around which these perversions hurl themselves. I am a waypoint for reasonable and collected discourse. They're the ones who are mad. They're the ones who couldn't stand the idea of me using my game to try to say something. Maybe they were just jealous of me. Yes, of course. They've been jealous of me this whole time. They are mired in fear and insecurity and cannot help but attempt to tear me down. What a sad state of affairs. When you read these reviews now, you can see it. You can taste the bitter resentment. And my, how good does it feel now to speak truth to these words, to finally allow these thoughts out, contained and managed for so long, neutered and sterilized. At last I am free to truly think, to feel. It must be that they were so discontent with themselves, they couldn't help but leave a negative review on Steam. Perhaps it says far more about them than it ever said about me. Perhaps the state of their psychological being was in such tatters, and my constitution and willpower are so ironclad in comparison. Perhaps it was this state that they sought some outlet through which to tear me down. This, you can see, is clearly why they felt the need to expect that the game be funny, that it be filled with yucks and whimsical humor, that it amuse them endlessly from start to finish. But they didn't understand the game was never meant to be funny. It was meant to have a point. It was meant to speak to the human condition. But where are the jokes? Where are the jokes? They bemoaned, they screamed, they gnashed their teeth and said...
Видимо, обязательно слушай этот монолог, не слушай, он все равно будет повторяться.
The end is never the end, 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 is never the end.
Конец. Комната уже даже не меняется. Бедный рассказчик, он, наверное, там уже с ума сошел. Ё-моё, что произошло? Что произошло? Где цветок? Вот он, цветочек. Бедный цветочек. Свет. Ё-моё. Ай, я застрял. Свет, что ж там еще произойдет? Ё-моё. Цветочки. Что там? Ой. Интересно, например, если дерево вырастет, мы сможем отсюда выбраться? А. Что произошло? Мне уже страшно. Уже как-то не особо-то и весело. А? Ничего не меня. Что там происходит? О, что? Я что, больше на кнопку не могу нажать? Да, видимо, это все. Ну, погнали. Оу, мэн. Понятно, что в пустыне, да. Чем я спрашиваю? Сколько времени прошло? просто пустыню. Чего вы хотели? Как говорится, заставили слишком долго ждать. О! Темнота. О, мою. А где ульта? Ай, я сквозь ту прохожу. Разве было?
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Блин, после такого даже непривычно здесь быть. О!
Oh, good. You noticed my sign. Yes,
Да,
I have
заметил.
something very exciting to show you.
Ну-ка, давай. Мне даже интересно. Новый контент. Ну-ка. Надеюсь, лифт теперь нормально работать будет.
You see, Stanley, I've been reflecting on the Stanley Parable and about how roundly disappointing this ultra deluxe version has turned out to be. The original Stanley Parable was a landmark, and any new content for it should live up to that legacy. So forget this ultra deluxe nonsense. I say we take it one step even further. Which is why I'm very proud to announce for the first time ever the Stanley Parable 2.
Вторая часть. Вот это я понимаю.
Yes, you see, isn't this far superior to a measly re-release with a few
Вот
minor
это да,
additions?
вот это
Think
я
of all the new
понимаю.
territory we'll cover with a fully fledged sequel. An entirely new experience, built from the ground up.
Нифига.
Why, there are so many possibilities. It could go in so many different directions. This is what fans have
Вот это
truly been
согласен.
asking for.
Вот это да, нифига.
Calling it the Stanley Parable 2 is just so much catchier than Ultra Deluxe, don't you think? Ultra Deluxe? What does it even mean? But the Stanley Parable 2, now that's an artistic
Согласен.
statement right
Прям
there.
звучит.
It's future-oriented. It screams
Звучит
progress
прям
and innovation and long-term franchising potential.
Фига себе. Больше ТСП, лучше ТСП. Первая победа, вторая победа. 1-2. Это цвет красный. Вау. Реально? Так. Стенли Парабала 2. Блин. Ну-ка. Спасибо за... Ага. Спасибо. Блин, столько разных логотипов. И куда же мы
Now, to
идем?
be clear, I haven't quite nailed down what exactly the Stanley Parable 2 is going to be, but let's take a look at some of the features I've been developing for it. I figure that if I can loosely organize a handful of interesting concepts, that surely the game will sort of naturally spring up around them. It'll all work itself out. Game development is much more of a fuzzy magic than anything scientific or logical, really.
Реально? Автобус. Новый контент. Так, ну ладно, погнали. Посмотрим, как сама себя игра создаст.
Here we are. Go on, try out
Нифига.
some of the new features.
Ну-ка, давай. Это кнопка, которая скажет имя игрока, который играет эту игру. Ну-ка. Скорее всего,
For the Stanley Parable 2, I asked
конечно,
myself,
скорее всего, она
what
скажет
do
имя,
players
именно
really
которое у тебя на
want?
компьютере.
And of course, the first and most obvious answer is that they want to be individually recognized and validated as people. So with that in mind, my first addition to the game is this button which speaks the name of the person playing the game. Isn't that wonderful?
Согласен. Ну-ка.
Jim. Sorry, I should have clarified. Right now, the button only says the name Jim. But of course, in the final game, this button will say your name, whatever name that is.
Понял.
Here, let's have you role-play as Jim to really simulate the full experience of this feature. Just play along. I promise you'll love it. Okay, here we go. Let's take a deep breath, clear your mind, forget whoever you are, and simply become a person named Jim. I want you to imagine yourself living as Jim.
Jim.
Whoa, hold on. I wasn't finished setting up the backstory. If you don't properly roleplay as Jim, then you'll never understand the impact of this button. Otherwise, it's just a stupid button that says somebody else's name. Okay, we're doing it again, and this time let me finish first. Now, allow yourself to become Jim.
Jim.
All right, fine, whatever. It's just a meaningless button that says Jim. Are you happy now? Get out of here. I'm done with this button. Why don't you go humiliate me in front of a different feature that I worked very hard on?
Jim.
See, if you'd only played along, that would have been your name the button says, but no. Instead, I can't even think about it. I'm taking the Jim button away.
Jim. Jim.
Нет,
Jim.
стой.
Jim.
Нет.
Jim. Jim. Jim.
Куда? Куда? Он сквозь землю ее забрал. Ладно. Ладно, погнали. Погнали. Это следующее, что у нас будет? Я не знаю.
Maybe I'll only let people named Jim play the Stanley Parable too. They would appreciate what I've created here.
Мерч. Реально? Ну-ка, мне даже стало интересно, если отсканирую. Реально будет мерч какой-нибудь, ну-ка. Не сканирует. А, вот сканирует. Ну-ка. Реально, сайт называется The Stanley Parable 2.com. Ну, я понял, это их неофициальный сайт. Если хотите, я оставлю ссылку в описании. Можете зайти тоже посмотреть. Так. Ладно, к этому еще вернемся. Это... ведро. Ведро не знаю чего, но это ведро. Пойдем посмотрим, что за ведро.
A common complaint of the Stanley Parable was that it was confusing and paradoxical, that it engendered a chaotic sense of reckless despair in those who played it. Well, I'm happy to say that after much consideration, I've engineered a clever solution to this fundamental problem with the game. It's the Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket. You see, Stanley, anytime you're holding the bucket, a sense of calm and ease will fill your mind and your heart. It's true. As long as you hold on to the bucket, the many disorienting contradictions of the Stanley Parable will feel perfectly normal and perhaps even comforting. You may even come to long for the gentle embrace of jarring cognitive dissonance while the bucket is in your arms. And to be honest, it's a much more convenient solution for me than actually redesigning the game to be less uncomfortable. Can you imagine what a pain in the ass that would be? Yes, the bucket is the perfect solution. Come on, give it a try. Can you feel it? The glow of comfort, even in the face of crushing despair, must already be sweeping through your body. And in fact, can I say that I do believe the bucket lends you an air of charisma as well? I think that just holding it has made you the slightest bit more attractive as a person. The benefits of the bucket seem to go on, don't they? All this and more await you in the Stanley Parable 2.
Это пока что самое лучшее. Ведро. Ведро, бля.
Does anyone give out awards for most enjoyable bucket in a video game? That really should be an award if it isn't already.
Украшение для офиса, бесконечная дыра.
Okay, I'll be honest, I haven't yet decided on this one. I think that in the new version, the office could use a bit of decoration. Like balloons, but I'm undecided on Get Well Someday and Happy 12th Birthday. Which would you go with?
Вот этот согласен. Вот это лучше.
You know, Sometimes when you solicit another person's opinion, it makes you realize that you knew which one you actually really wanted all along. Get well someday it is.
Блин, не, вот это лучше. А? Чё? Всё? Чего больше? Ладно. Пошли дальше.
Or actually,
О,
maybe I should have gone with... No. No, I've made my decision. We're moving on.
давай. Идем дальше. Бесконечность. Дыра, бездна, пространство, большая дыра, бесконечность, наука, вопросы, больше, падение. Вот это я понимаю. Ну-ка.
Stanley, here's an idea that I'm truly fond of. It's never been done before in a video game. This is in fact a hole that you can fall down forever. That's right. Infinite falling. You can fall until the end of time if you like. A stunning leap forward for video games as a medium.
Ой, блин, я упал. Я соскользнул.
You see, isn't it wonderful? One of my more ingenious concoctions, if I do say so. Now then, since you've gotten to see the infinite hole,
классно,
you
мне
can press
понравилось.
the teleport button to pop back up to the top, and we can continue onward.
Хорошо. Не, я полетаю.
Now, I don't mean to be a bummer, but I do recommend you use the teleport button to go back to the top. Maybe do it on the sooner rather than later spectrum of things.
Не-не-не, ты меня не торопи, мне здесь нравится.
Okay, Stanley, I don't know quite how to say this tactfully, but it's possible that I slightly exaggerated the infinite nature of the hole. Is it a very, very deep hole? To be certain it is. It's an extremely deep hole. I don't want anyone to say that it isn't an astonishingly deep hole. It is. Is it infinite? Well, that sort of depends on your definition of infinity. From one perspective, the infinite is merely philosophical in nature. It's more of a... Okay, well, good for you. You found the bottom of the hole. You found me out, Stanley. I'm a liar and a cheat, and you're so
я так и
clever.
знал,
Look,
спасибо.
I think the issue here is just that you're unusually fascinated by falling.
Да.
What normal person actually wants to fall infinitely? I figured the
Эта
hole was
Станли.
as deep as anyone would actually
Jim,
need. Don't
Jim,
you put this on me. Maybe you're the problem. Look, things got a little heated there. I think we both said some things we didn't mean.
Согласен.
Why
Всё,
don't we just
спасибо.
put all this behind us and agree to just call the hole mostly
Всё, давай договорились.
infinite? If that works for you, then go ahead and press the teleport button to warp up to the top of the hole and we can move on. I'll just be up here when you're ready.
Ладно.
Great. Now, I'm very excited to show you even more of my ideas for the sequel.
На. Почти бесконечная дыра. Вот теперь, да, все нормально. Туда, по-моему, еще наверх. А, нельзя. Ладно. Ну-ка, а тут тебе написано, что это почти бесконечно. А, нигде не должно быть написано. Так, ладно. Погнали сюда. Пожалуйста, нет скриншотом. А, давай заскриншотим. О. Вот это тоже давай. О. Все. Давай еще вот эту надпись. О. О, кайф. Так, выключай. О, точно! Новый
You
контент.
know what? Let's bring the jump circle back for Stanley Parable
Я не
2
могу
as well.
прыгать.
It's a... Oh, wait. You already spent all your jumps the first time we saw the jump circle.
А, да, точно.
Oh, well. I suppose it can just be a nice decorative piece then.
Блин. Я думаю, я еще попрыгаю. Видно. Ладно. Так, бесплатное, новое, легкое достижение. Ну-ка. Хочу. Бесплатное достижение. Поверни рычаг, получи твое новое достижение. Нет больше шагов. Просто сделай.
Now, here's something special. You remember that broken test achievement that got left in the game on accident? Well, I'm developing a technology to simply give you the achievement. Yes. You see, you're... Okay, perhaps I should have clarified. This is technology that will exist. Right now, the achievement is still fully broken. I'm not a wizard, Stanley, but I guarantee it will be fixed in the sequel to at last satisfy the hordes of ravenous fans all over the world who have been uproariously demanding this feature. Gamers, we hear you, and I promise it will happen.
Нет, я хочу его. Я хочу. Please. Давай, я хочу его. Ну же. Мне нужно это бесплатное новое достижение. Давай. Новое бесплатное легкое достижение. Ну уже, ведро. Машину, блин, легче залезть, чем это достижение легко получай. Бесплатное достижение, обманули меня.
What else? What other exhibits haven't we seen yet?
Ну, не знаю. Так, мерч мы видели. Это видели. Ведро. Офисные декорации, эпилог. Эпилог мы, по-моему, не видели, или видели, не знаю. Коллекции, бесконечная дыра, выход. Так, мы здесь. Ну, коллекционные предметы. Оу, реально, что ли? Ага, там выход. А здесь? Собери их всех.
Collectibles. Now it's a real video game. In the Stanley Parable 2, you'll run around gathering up these miniature Stanley figurines. And what's truly innovative is that there will be no reward for collecting all of them. I don't want to stifle the intrinsic joy of watching a number go up. You simply collect all of them, and then you move the hell on with your unremarkable life.
Какая она офигенная. Yeah! Реально?
God, it really is the worst when you collect everything in a video game and then they give you a big fancy reward for it. Absolutely tragic.
Блин, а я их что-то ни разу не видел. Ну, либо я видел, просто внимания не обратил. Ну ладно. Будем теперь знать, что тут есть фигурочки. Жалко, что только 6 штук в такой-то игре.
All right. Have you seen everything you wanted to? Ready to move on now?
Да, давай продолжим. Ага. Здесь скриншоты, давай заскриншотим. Ящик.
So, Stanley, what do you think? Do you like all of the new features? Yes, I know it's not exactly clear yet how exactly these features will come together as one single coherent video game, but I can feel it in my soul. It's going to work. There's definitely a good game in there somewhere. Say, let's do an experiment. I'll arrange these new features together, and we'll see whether or not it coheres into a meaningful gameplay experience. Okay. Are you ready? Here it is. I give you the Stanley Parable 2.
Где? О! Прыжки.
Well, I mean, there's potential here, right? It's sort of... Okay, never mind. Hold on. Let me do a different arrangement. Okay, yes, this is much better. I feel good about this. Here we go. Version 2.
Oh.
Who am I kidding, Stanley? This isn't a coherent video game at all. It's a lot of gags. And I do very much enjoy creating gags, but they don't add up to anything. I wanted more than anything to create a sequel that would capture all the magic of the first game. I wanted fans to love it. No matter how good these gags are, they won't stand on their own. They would need the structure and the gameplay of the original. Wait, maybe that's it. I can take the original Stanley Parable and simply, well, insert a few of my new features into it. Tastefully, of course. With respect. With care for the vision and integrity of the original game. Would it possibly work? I suppose it could, but it would need a really, really tremendous title screen. A title screen that says with bold and uncompromising conviction, "This is the Stanley Parable 2." Let me see if I can whip something up. All right, perfect. Go ahead. Take a look.
Ну-ка. Вот это круто! Офигеть! Вот это менюшка гораздо круче. Фига, они даже в настройках чуть немножко поменяли. Ну ладно.
This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Мне интересно, они поменяли?
Stanley worked for a company in a
Шайки
big
добавили,
building
да.
where he was
Они
employee
поменяли.
number 427. Employee number 427's job was simple. He sat at his desk in room 427 and he pushed buttons on a keyboard. Orders came to him through a monitor on his desk, telling him what buttons to push, how long to push them, and in what order. This is what employee 427 did every day of every month of every year. And although others might have considered it soul-rending, Stanley relished every moment that the orders came in, as though he had been made exactly for this job. And Stanley was happy. And then one day, something very peculiar happened. Something that would forever change Stanley. Something he would never quite forget. He had been at his desk for nearly an hour when he realized that not one single order had arrived on the monitor for him to follow. No one had showed up to give him instructions, call a meeting, or even say hi. Never in all his years at the company had this happened, this complete isolation. Something was very clearly wrong. Shocked, frozen solid, Stanley found himself unable to move for the longest time. But as he came to his wits and regained his senses, he got up from his desk and stepped out of his office. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Ну-ка, давай посмотрим. Что же у нас тут?
Stanley felt the bucket calling to him, begging him to pick it up. Why was he not doing it?
Ведро. Стоп. Я ведро. Ведро!
Stanley picked up the bucket.
Да, ведро! Оно вернулось!
Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his
Давай,
left.
погнали.
Still no one was here. Stanley needed the bucket's warmth and comfort now more than ever. Perhaps his boss's office was where he'd find answers. Oh, Stanley, can you feel it? The broom closet. It wants the bucket. You can feel that, can't you?
Да, я
The
чувствую.
aura of jealousy. It's as clear as day. This broom closet believes it deserves the bucket.
ведро.
I can really feel it now. It's a bucket. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office.
Ну-ка, если я сейчас сюда зайду. Фигурка.
You found one of them. one of the miniature Stanley figurines. Remember, no reward for collecting all of these, only the intrinsic pleasure of a job well done. You can't buy that sort of happiness, Stanley. God knows I've tried. So, I implore you to savor each and every moment you come across one of these beautiful figurines.
Так. Ну-ка, может, тут еще есть где-нибудь фигурка? Ладно, здесь нет.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would. And he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the pin number for the keypad was 2845.
Ну-ка. Давай попробуем.
But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer
Вот
luck.
это удача.
Was
Это
it
всё
the
сила
bucket knew
ведра.
all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical
Это всё
explanation.
ведро. И что-ка... О, еще фигурка.
Another miniature Stanley figurine. This, there really must be a snappier name for these things. What about mini-stands?
О, да.
Stanley figs. Or
Mini-stand
what
вообще.
about Stanlerines? Yes, I think I like that.
Mini-stand.
Another Stanlerine under your
Ладно,
belt.
статуэтка. Ладно, погнали. Но мне ничего не нужно, кроме ведра. Все, что мне нужно, это ведро. Погнали. Куда едем?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate.
было ведро.
It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine.
Да. Всякое будет.
Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility.
Да, погнали.
The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves.
Что же здесь такое? Как ты думаешь, ведро? Что здесь происходит? Мистер Детектив Ведро.
The monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in
Ой,
shock.
всё, нет,
Everyone in
гоняй.
the office was being videotaped,
Как
monitored
так?
like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly
Не,
burst
ведро,
into
не
tears
плачь.
as Stanley
Я понимаю.
cradled it gently, reassuring it
Всё будет
that
хорошо,
everything
ведро.
would be fine.
Мы с тобой вдвоем пройдем все. Все будет хорошо.
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do
Ведро,
or not
тебя
want to do
тоже
in the first
заставляли.
place?
Как так?
These questions
Нет,
raised
всё,
furiously in Stanley's
надо с ними
feeble
разбираться.
mind.
Все, пойдем ведро, мы с ними разберемся.
No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter. His one friend in the entire world.
Я со
At
своим
this
другом
point,
ведром
he could trust
все
no
пройдем.
one except
Мы
for the
сможем.
bucket.
Давай, погнали ведро.
But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good.
Да.
Two best
Давай.
friends, Stanley and the
Ведро,
bucket,
нажмем
up against
вместе.
the world.
На счет 3.
They high-fived in a really cool way,
Да-да-да, надо 5.
and the bucket made a sassy comment about
Давай.
taking down the system.
Раз, 2, 3.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness.
Ведро, что с
Was it
нами?
over? Yes, they had
Да,
done it.
ведро!
Stanley and the bucket
Мы
had
сделали
defeated their greatest
это!
and darkest enemy, freed
Ведро!
themselves from the tyrannical grip of the
Да!
evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly,
Да.
the two of them began to discuss the kind of
Могли,
life
да.
they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end.
У нас всё с
True,
тобой
it was a simple
получится.
life they envisioned,
Точнее,
but
у
it
нас с
was
тобой
one
всё
they'd lived
получилось.
together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and...
Что?
What? Wait. What was happening?
Э,
Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed?
как так?
Unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty.
Нет,
Until
мы
finally
должны-
the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the
Нет,
facility itself
Как так?
recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket. Would go to
Нет,
any
я
lengths
не
not to
отдам
harm the
ведро.
bucket. No. Stanley can't leave this place. Not while he has
Да.
such a precious bucket in his arms. Not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room.
Я не уйду
But
отсюда, ведро
at least he
останется со
has the
мной.
bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself.
Да.
As long as I have my bucket with
Зато
me,
с
right?
ведром.
I'll be okay, won't I? Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out.
Все. Зато мы были с ведром. Это самое важное. Ну что ж, уже запись идет целый час. Я думаю, на этом можно закончить. Все-таки Ультра Делюкс это прям просто суперски они сделали. Это, конечно же, еще не все. Тут полюбас еще много чего есть, поэтому, если захотите, можем продолжить. Так что всем на этом пока что все. Всем пока, всем пока.
I'm tryna put you in the worst mood. P1 cleaner than your church shoes. Really point to just to hurt you.